Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. The media continue to perpetuate the idea that legacy autos are going to bring out some new EV that will entirely destroy Tesla's business. Remember, these days we've realised they're fake news. But they look so official. They're on TV, well presented, have haircuts, and talk so professionally. They really look the part, credible and authoritative. It makes it difficult to not believe them. And then they get more credible people on their shows as guests to interview to even further predicate their narrative. These talking heads act trustworthy, like they genuinely want to report us the news. They cherry-pick data, they use statistics to lie, it's taken out of context and not relative enough to the truth. But they'll make out like this cherry-picked data is important and totally ignore the big picture and what really matters. They draw strawman arguments. There's no one else there to counter their conclusions. But who are the media's biggest customers? Pretty much the auto legacy companies. Ford and GM are both in the top 10 brands of US advertisers. The automotive industry is the second largest advertising industry in the US. Media companies don't want to lose their best customers, or don't want them to go out of business. This is the same for any car reviews. The online magazines, the TV shows, they're reviewing their customers' products. When have you ever heard a review say, "This car is absolutely terrible, avoid it like the plague"? They're selling you the cars, and perhaps pointing out a few minor faults just to make it believable and a balanced, honest review, like, "The cup holders are a little bit too small." The only time I can actually recall a negative review was on Top Gear, when they reviewed the original Tesla Roadster. Tesla even sued Top Gear over that review. So much so that when Jeremy Clarkson reviewed the Model X, it was the most passive-aggressive review of any product we've ever seen. He drove around with a team of lawyers the whole way. I mean, if any media or reviewers gave a bad review on a car, then Ford, or whomever the manufacturer was, would simply say, "We're pulling our account from you. No more advertising. Also, we're not going to lend you any more of our cars to review either." It wouldn't take long until these reviewers would be left with no advertisers and no products for review. Makes sense, right? Oh yeah, except of course for the auto companies that don't advertise with them, which is just one, Tesla. Not only that, this one company is seriously affecting the future of the auto companies, aka the media's customers. This isn't some kind of conspiracy, it's just good business practice. You look after your customers. The media have to do it in a way where they can't go too far and look overly biased. They need to be seen as reporting accurate, realistic news. So they may even give Tesla the occasional pat on the back, just to maintain looking convincing. But why do we see the likes of Gordon Johnson on CNBC so often, allowed to get out all the FUD he's been contriving lately, without any interruptions? Sure, whoever's interviewing might say something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm not quite sure that's entirely fair, Gordon. Tesla have done this," again, as to keep it looking real. But make no mistakes, it's all an act. On his latest CNBC interview, Andrew Sorkin even says, "The Tesla bulls keep asking why do they let Gordon Johnson on CNBC? I couldn't believe it. We were going to finally find out." This was a question for CNBC, but then Andrew Sorkin totally deflects the question over to Gordon Johnson and asks him about his Tesla position. It has nothing to do with Gordon Johnson's position. We want to know why CNBC let him on all the time, as he's been continually wrong and has no credibility. The question is misdirected at Gordon Johnson with an absolute strawman argument.
Gordon, we got to run, but I got to tell you, every time you come on, of course, the Tesla bulls come out and say, why do you let this guy on TV? He's saying all that, what's going on here? Just for transparency's sake, do you have, what's your position, to the extent you have any position, related to Tesla?
Well, listen, I'm a sell-side analyst. I can't invest directly in stocks that I cover. But, I mean, keep in mind, the Tesla bulls said they're saying that sales in China were going to be strong. They were down 66%.
I wanted you to say that on the air. That's all.
The real answer we're looking for on why do they keep having Gordon Johnson on, because some people actually believe him when he talks negatively about Tesla, because the answer is, we're doing everything we can to keep Tesla stock and sales down for our advertising customers. And as most of you all know, Gordon Johnson has a terrible track record, and his father was an executive at GM. Credibility? I don't think so. Ulterior motive? Absolutely. If you want genuine credibility, then turn to people who really know. The likes of Sandy Monroe, who, as far as I can tell, is literally the most credible person when it comes to tearing down a car. And he's continually absolutely blown away by what Tesla achieves. And this is just the Model 3, their mass-scale production car, after such little manufacturing experience they had. And the Model Y, before the structural battery pack or front and rear castings. Just what are we going to see when he starts tearing down the Cybertruck? He's simply amazed at what effort Tesla reached in saving weight and cost, yet they still undercut their ICE equivalence price points, and do it with a much larger margin. Whenever anyone ever does an EV review, and they talk about things like how many screens a Mercedes has, or how large the frunk is on an F-150, or how nice the stitching is in the Audi e-tron, then they're all sellouts. Or maybe they genuinely don't understand what matters in an EV, but most likely the former. They may have been getting paid for the review even. They can't be honest with you. It's not their agenda. As Adam Smith said, we act in self-interest. But they might have a really big following on YouTube, or lots of viewers to their website, and therefore that's what we look to as authority and endorsement of credibility. But it's simply not in their best interest, to be honest with you. They have a different agenda. And yes, they do tell you and explain the features what the car can do, and it can be entertaining, but it's just important to understand what angle they're coming from. And fair enough, you might say my agenda is to defend Tesla, but it's really going to make very little difference to me if I give an honest opinion on an EV or not. My word affects Tesla's stock price in no way whatsoever. And I don't hate all EVs other than Tesla. I genuinely think Rivian has done a good job, and the Neo ET7 doesn't look too bad either. But they still come up short compared to Tesla, where it matters in an EV. The reviewers are all from the traditional auto industry, where they compare features. But this is a tech industry now, where you compare specifications. They just discount the lack of range these cars have as one downside, and balance it out with something like superior build quality. Imagine reviewing a typewriter against a computer. You might say, sure, it doesn't have a word processor, but look how much better it's built than this computer. When there was a Samsung and iPhone launched, when you compare the two of them, if the Samsung had twice the performance at half the cost, then very little else would really matter. It would mean they've destroyed the competition. EVs should be looked at as tech, not autos. It's an entirely new industry, yet we have traditional auto reviewers giving their opinions in an industry they're not familiar with. And as the legacy autos are also discovering, when it comes to manufacturing, it's not their industry either, as much as they try. Anyway, with the media continuing the narrative of the next Tesla killer, does it even matter? I mean, to think that a $150,000 to $200,000 Porsche is suddenly going to be the end of Tesla, despite the majority of their sales being Model 3 and Y at an entirely different price point. Of course, if you think the F-150 specs were bad, then the Porsche was even worse and so much more expensive. Probably because it was that hard to make it high performance and try and have a 0 to 60 time similar to Tesla. Anyway, even if the legacy automakers actually made a car which had a longer range for a lower price than a Tesla, which I arrogantly say is impossible, and even if their FSD was up there with Tesla's, which is impossible, and even if they had similar features, tech, drive quality, performance, again, all impossible, and then even if they could actually manufacture the same number as Tesla from some magic factories, which is impossible, and in addition to that, find enough batteries to supply their vehicles, which is impossible, then even if all that happened, then would that even be the end of Tesla? No. The EV industry is going to be huge. This is why Tesla sell every car they make. The EV industry is so big and growing, Tesla could not make enough cars to keep up with it as it is. So if there was another car that was as good as Tesla, then they would also likely sell every car they make along with Tesla. But even so, it's not like they would immediately have as many models as Tesla either, or be able to enter as many markets. But okay, let's say for example BMW release a 3 Series that is all electric, has a range as good as Tesla, is the same price, same performance, as good at FSD, all the other features. Then will it be the Tesla killer? No, it will be the BMW killer. It would immediately cannibalize all their 3 Series ICE range, and likely a lot of the 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 series sales too. Tesla have established their brand as an EV, better than anyone else, and until there is anyone else, their brand will keep becoming stronger and more synonymous with electric vehicles, further saturating the market and securing their market share. I really don't like to be complacent or obtuse, but seriously, how can any ICE companies compete, let alone beat Tesla? Yet the media actually try and say that there will be cars that come along that will actually beat Tesla at its own game. Even so many out there think that now the F-150 Lightning is out, the Cybertruck is finished. Yet the best way to measure the popularity that I can tell will be the number of pre-orders for each of them, which Tesla destroy Ford on. Not only that, it would seem that the Ford has now made the Cybertruck even more popular. And Tesla have received a ton more pre-orders since the F-150. I think Tesla received even more additional pre-orders than the F-150 Lightning has total. It's so funny. Even when the legacy competition try, with their top-selling car, all they ended up doing is generating even more sales for Tesla. The more electric vehicles the legacy companies launch, the larger they expand the EV market, as they're giving it more credibility with their seal of approval, as they condone that EVs are the future of automotive. But this industry they're expanding is Tesla's, so it ends up benefiting Tesla more. In fact, I say industry, but we don't even know if there is such a thing as the EV industry yet, and if it's not just Tesla on their own. Perhaps it's not EVs that consumers want, but only Teslas. And they're all wasting their time even trying. We won't know for some time. Again and again, I keep seeing just how difficult it must be for these legacy auto companies to transition. I'm sure there would all be fantastic companies to short, but I'd rather be invested long in Tesla. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.